season has taken us to faraway places such as Belgium, Austria, the Netherlands, and even Italy. With this being a North American-based club, we're going to end it at one of the most iconic tracks in the U.S., Daytona. Get ready for a real fight for the title as we get ready to watch the PCA Sim Racing Series 11 Challenge class. And you'll see it all live here on RaceSpotTV. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth tonight is Reese Gardner. And behind the scenes is our director, Ramir Cisneros. And as you can see, we're going to be racing under the lights for this one. It all comes down to this, Reese, to determine who is going to walk away with the title.
Exactly right, Joe. This is a fantastic track to conclude a championship at. Daytona International Speedway, obviously one of the most famous circuits in the world. Hosts the Daytona 500 and the 24 Hours of Daytona every year. We are running the default road course layout for this one, which means slipstream is key. There's a little bit of a run through the infield and provides quite a few overtaking opportunities through the horseshoes, but what's going to define the racing here tonight is, can you stick within 1.5 seconds of the car in front? That's going to define things as we check out the standings here. It is pretty close for the championship standings. Casey McDonald leading the way into the final round, but tied for second between Mehmet Karasay and Kevin Schultz. That's going to be very interesting to see how that plays out.
Absolutely, and most intriguing is only Mehmet has drop points. So if Casey and Kevin both wreck out, and Mehmet as well, that means that Karachay will wind up as our champion, as he has 11 sitting in his pocket, and he's only 9 behind Casey currently. So for those curious what it takes for Casey to wrap it up, just a 5th or better will clinch things for him this evening. They are in the midst of the end of practice. Then they get their qualifying laps, only 3 to set their quickest time out here, and it is solo qualifying. So while in the race they will be thinking about the slipstream, as Reese mentioned, during the qualifying itself, everybody has to try and push as hard as they can to try and get that fastest lap and can't play any games trying to wait for a teammate to help you, as you can see them coming down through the infield here. And as you'd expect with this being in the evening, it's a nice cool 77 degrees Fahrenheit right now out there, which is a 25 Celsius track temperature. Going to take them a bit to get those tires up to temps.
Indeed it will. Of course, racing the Porsche 911 GT3R. So GT3 having tire warmers, it does mean that the tires won't take too long to come up to temperature, but you still have to deal with a little bit of coolness on your way out of the pits, and the infield is really your only chance to warm up those tires. So they best get their tires up to temperature and up to pressure very early on their outlap, so they have the optimum temperatures for the attack into turn 1, which is an incredibly difficult turn to get right in any car.
Now, you mentioned trying to hold on to that slipstream. This is also a series which has a pit stop because they've limited the fuels on these cars, Reese. So I kind of wonder who's going to be playing some games, because there is massive fuel saving that you could do if you get in a train.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Massive indeed. If you can, I think that's what the leaders are going to be doing. You know, you don't want to be the front car in the train, but everyone behind you is not going to be trying to make their moves. You need to hang back into turn 1 and into the bus stop, lift off, maybe even get on the clutch and run the revs down if you're able to do that in these cars. I cannot recall if that functionality has been removed in recent builds, but it's going to be all about fuel saving here, and later on in the race, brave moves. It's going to be very tight indeed.
We've seen some races here at the road course come down to a run to the line just because drivers were so close out of the bus stop that you can sometimes slingshot to try and overtake the lead and snipe it away on the very last lap. We'll see if anybody's in that situation once we get to the end. As Reese hinted at, for the leaders, if they can stay together, they're not only going to be playing the games of the fuel, but perhaps trying to size up their moment for the end of the race itself, as the Practice session now ends, and looks like Mehmet Karaçay is the quickest in practice with, appropriately, Casey McDonald, our top two in the points, our top two in the warm-up here for this race. And yes, we do have a third car that is able to take it. Kevin Schultz checking to double see if he is actually here this evening. And I don't believe, no, he is
like
here,
it.
yeah.
Oh, no, actually, I do see him. He's right at the bottom of the timesheets. Hasn't set a lap in practice.
Keeping his cards close to his chest, so we'll have to watch and see if he puts a lap time down here in qualifying, which has now just started. Yeah, I couldn't find him for a bit as well, so Kevin kind of hiding from us and trying to stay out of the limelight maybe to avoid any sort of curses. Drivers should be taking off from that pit exit and getting wound up now. We should see drivers try to get themselves up towards the front. I wouldn't say because track position is as critical here. I mean, passing definitely doable, but like I said, you just don't want to lose that lead pack.
No, absolutely not. And when you come up to the pit stops as well, another element that I forgot to mention is the pit entry. We've seen in previous rounds of this series drivers having issues slowing down for the pits in time, either too late or too early. And if you haven't got your pit entry down at Daytona, you are going to lose out massively. It's a very fast entry coming off NASCAR Turn 4. You're almost at top speed as you get on the anchors for the pit lane, and it's very difficult to tell when that breaking point is. So that's something else the drivers will have to keep in mind here.
Here's Mehmet coming up onto the banking. This is through NASCAR 1 and 2. Right now, I think the highest car up that's going to start the first time lap first is George Poulos. And they should have plenty of time to get both of their laps in around here. It's somewhere around minute 40 that most drivers able to execute in these GT3 class cars. They get 10 minutes as George, well, having a bit of trouble, and maybe he won't be able to get all 3 laps in.
Yeah, that's no good. That's not the way to start your qualifying run at Daytona. The exit of the Le Mans chicane, which is commonly called the bus stop, and it's easy to see why. It's easy to run a bit deep in there and get on the grass on exit. These cars do have traction control and anti-lock brakes, but even driver aids can't save you if you mess up that corner.
No, I've seen so many drivers wind up smacking that outside wall many a times from the Le Mans chicane, unfortunately. So Casey McDonald now going to start his first time lap coming down into the first corner. Honestly, one of the trickiest corners in racing, I think. You talked about coming in at high speeds. That one, not only that, but you got that transition off the banking too.
Yeah, there's it's one of those corners where there is no correct line on the way through. Like there's infinite lines you can take through turn 1, and all of them work equally well or equally bad, depending on how cynical you are. I tend to fall more on the cynical side of things. I've done quite a few Daytona 24s, and that corner has been the bane of my existence. Do you go deep? Do you go narrow? Do you take more out of the track on the exit? Do you late apex? God knows.
Yeah, and just getting it consistently, too. I mean, trying to repeat the same thing twice is almost impossible, it feels like sometimes. But also, if you want to follow along with us, don't forget that we've got our live timing up. There is a link in the YouTube chat right now if you want to go check that out. So if we're not talking or showing your favorite driver right that second, you can at least see how they are faring at all times during the race. Here's the comparison to see what it's going to be like between Karaçay and McDonald on this first flying lap. And it does look like, if I'm seeing that correctly, Mehmet much slower. Wonder if he's maybe had an off and is just trying to back himself up to set up for a better one second time around.
Yeah, that is the question. It's all about nailing the exit from the bus stop, really. That's what's going to set up your entire next lap, because if you're a bit too slow across the line here, you're already going to be losing time on the way into turn 1. We do have our first times coming in, though. Kevin Schultz, well, he was playing his cards close to his chest in practice, and looks like he's got all aces.
Indeed, he is almost half a second quicker than Casey McDonald, who joins him on the front row. but my suspicions were correct about Mehmet. He has not set a time on the first lap. He's got 2 more to try and improve, but hopefully the tires are in just as good of condition to try and put himself up with his rivals to take this championship. Meanwhile, the 444, also one of those drivers that still needs to set a time, but he hasn't had a first lap. This is his first flyer right now. This is Ed Trippett.
Jack Stevenson as well, coming up to the end of a lap, and that is not the time that he would want. It looks like he's made a mistake somewhere along the line there, going to stick to the inside of the track as much as he can off the oval. If you're flat out through these corners, look at the amount of banking, by the way. That's ridiculous. NASCAR Turn 4, you want to stick to the inside. It is the shortest route around the track, sticking to the inside all the way down the front stretch as well. That's what you're going to be seeing most of the drivers do, as Karasai has come out of the corner there, the very corner I was speaking of, and this lap is looking good. Will he be able to put himself up with Kevin Schultz and Casey McDonald?
Right now, his goal is a 46.231. That's what Kevin put down on his first time around. He'll cross the line here momentarily. Karachai sitting second in the points. A 46.492 is not going to put him on the pole, but it will put him on the front row.
Good stuff there from Mehmet, exactly where he needs to be. Michael Courtney and Jeremy Main put laps in. Courtney to 9th, Main to 5th. Some good performances here in qualifying from many of the drivers, and some very close gaps as well. Joshua Jefferson and Robert Gallais, they're only separated by 0.05 of a second or so, which is certainly going to be hotly contested when they come to the race. Looks like Dave Douglas has ended his qualifying run. He will start no better than 8th. Where does Jack Stevenson put himself? One of 3 drivers that hasn't set a time yet.
Stevenson would like to probably be a little bit higher up so that he doesn't get left behind by the end of the start of the race, or maybe he's content riding from the back. George Poulos as well in the 192 still needs a lap, as in fact I don't see him having put anyone down, so it's not even that he went off track somewhere. He simply started late in comparison, which means I doubt he'll be able to complete all 3. Neil Urbesh is the only other one that needs a time amongst them. Oh, Jack Stevenson, you mentioned him earlier. He's up to 16th on that lap, and there was another driver that needed... Oh, Poulos just jumped up to 5th, though.
Wow, yeah, great performance there from George Poulos, 47.058. That is a really competitive time, actually. Only 0.8 off the leaders, and that's only 0.02 behind Jeremy Main. That's big congratulations in store there for George Poulos. Aubrey Ayer and Lisa Eskridge have also improved. Ayer up to 10th, Eskridge to 12th, and there goes Casey McDonald up to 2nd again. He's improved on his 3rd and final lap. Good stuff.
Yeah, he managed to snipe that from Karachai at the last moment. Mehmet went faster on his 3rd lap, but it was not enough faster, unfortunately. Checking to see if we got anybody else able to complete a lap. Looks like Edward Trippett going to be one of our next cars across. He sits in 15th right now, and maybe will improve somewhere in the realm of about 2 or 3 tenths if he can keep this pace up. This is going to be the critical corner right here, coming out of the bus stop chicane, and boy, that was an improvement. He is showing now 5 tenths up.
Okay, let's see what Ed Trippett can do. 5 tenths in hand will put him likely into the top 10. So he'll be hoping that he's nailed the exit from the bus stop, run to the line. There's nothing you can do from this point on other than keep the foot to the floor and stick to the inside. 47.5 is the time, and he does put himself in the top 10 right at the end of the session.
Nicely done. Poulos 2nd, and last lap he'll be able to count here is also showing close to half a second improvement, but it gets deleted somewhere. He went off the circuit, and that is going to be it for him. Nobody else is able to set a time in the fields, but all 18 have managed to put one down in the series finale for number 11 this time, with 3 drivers still in the hunt for the championship title here in the Challenge Series. This should be a fun one, especially since all three of them are starting in the top 3 spots. So will they try and play this cool, Reese, all the way to the end of the race, or are we going to see them fighting immediately?
That is the question. It's a 40-minute race, and it's not the longest race that drivers will ever do, but there's plenty of strategy involved with the fuel cap and requiring to take fuel along the way. I get the feeling if Casey McDonald doesn't immediately get into the lead, he's just going to sit behind Schultz because, man, they are looking very close on pace, aren't they? I think the leaders are just going to be in lockstep here.
Yeah, there's less than 2/10 between the top 3, so it's tight enough that it's going to be fun out there. Meanwhile, with the grid set, you're going to see Kevin Schultz there on the pole position. Casey McDonald starting from P2, as Mehmet Karaçay will start from 3rd. There's your 3 championship competitors. Jeremy Main will start P4, as Poulos with a late charge up to 5th today, as he's got Lidback to his outside in 6th. Josh Jeppesen will be P7, and then you've got Michael Courtney in the 8th position. Inside of row 5, it's Robert Gallez with Edward Trippett, who also saw make a good late dive up into the top 10, as Dave Douglas will start 11th, and then Reese, we've got Aubrey Iyer in 12th.
Starting out of 13th, Lisa Eskridge. She's got Art Schwartz alongside her. Neil Urbesh and Rob Going 15th and 16th. And our final 2 cars on the field, Chris Scheusler and Jack Stevenson. A nice 18-car field taking to the start here. Short formation lap at Daytona. They start on the entry to the bus stop. We should be getting up to speed very shortly. Not much change from qualifying either in terms of conditions. It will still be a nice, cool track. Means that once the tires get up to temperature, drivers will have a lot of grip available to them, but I think they're going to be very skatey through the first couple of turns. And I think we've both called enough races at Daytona, Joe, to know that turns 1 and 2 at Daytona are where a lot of the action happens on lap 1.
Absolutely. This series prides itself in its clean starts, but it's been a little messy in Series 11, and we've seen a number of first lap full course cautions when the stewards deemed that there was too many accidents and they wanted to bunch the drivers back up to give everybody a realistic shot at the race. Let's cross our fingers we don't need one today, and we get this thing going right from the start. Again, it has been an incredible Series 11 with now 3 drivers having a chance at the championship in the final round for the challenge class. What can Kevin Schultz do from the pole? Can he go from 3rd on the scoring charts up to the title at the last asking of it? Pace car peels in. Kevin waits patiently. He needs the call from the flag stand before he can hit the throttle fully, and there it is now. Green flag is out. Doesn't go all that well, but McDonald, I think, almost looked like he backed out of it so that he didn't get a jump start penalty. Karaçay down to the inside, wants to hold on to that 3rd, but he is a little bit timid in comparison to Main.
And Casey McDonald around the outside, puts the power down, takes the lead from Kevin Schultz. So now he is in the box seat. He's going to be the one leading the way onto the oval. He won't be getting the benefit of any slipstream or any fuel saving. How hard are the leaders going to race here on lap 1 as they get up to pace? Aubrey Iyer losing positions. It looks like Aubrey's had a problem there at turn 2, fallen all the way to the rear of the field. So we have at least one off here on the first lap. Iyer just very slow coming through the international horseshoe.
Yeah, not sure exactly what caused it, but that was out of the exit there. Maybe there is a bit of a spin on the inside as they're already out of the western horseshoe and leading on to the oval. Ooh, big look up the inside for somebody back there. Didn't quite catch who that was, but it's hard to pass into turn 6, and now they're going to have a compromised exit on to the oval portion. McDonald's, though, boy, that was a decisive move, Reese. You called it around the outside, and he's already pulling away from Kevin.
Yeah, he got on the brakes nice and late into turn 1 and managed to hold the outside line beautifully. And now in the lead by half a second. There'll still be a lot of slipstream being taken from Schultz and Main behind. But tell you what, Main, he's looking a a bit in danger here. Mehmet Karasai in the slipstream of him, and he's going to try and immediately move back up into the top 3. Karasai lost out a little on lap 1. He's going to try and get all this time back and race with his championship compatriots.
In fact, he kind of needs to make this pass and not dawdle too much, messing about with his side-by-side here down into turn 1. Main will hold on to it. It's already over a second between third and second place right now. So Mehmet cannot afford to lose touch with those cars ahead. He has to brake early as still he's being held up, but maybe a bit wide off the corner from Jeremy Main. They're going to think about too wide now going through the kink. This could be very tricky early in the race as, well, Mehmet knows that. Look at him back out of it into there, and that puts him under threat from Poulos.
This is not going well for Mehmet Karasai right now. He's you can tell he's easily faster than Jeremy Main, but he just can't get the car where he needs it to make the move.
It's already up to 1.6 seconds now that he's lost to the top 2. The seconds are ticking away. Mehmet, I mean, I'm not sure what he can do from here unless he has the pace over them to try and chase them down, but the more time that he loses, the harder it's going to be.
Yeah, they're well outside slipstream range now. If Karasai does succeed in making the move on Main, then he's not going to get any benefit from the top 2 unless they come together and race side by side. I think the only thing he'll be hoping for at this point is a full course caution to bring everyone back together.
Well, he's got a nice good run as we check back in with our top 2. And let's see if Kevin will try and race side by side, or is he going to try and play the long game and save some fuel? Oh, he's not saving fuel. He's poking his nose out, looking for maybe an attempted pass for the lead. Breaks late down into the first corner, manages to get some overlap, but he's a bit too wide, and he'll have to wash back in a second.
Yeah, loses a bit of time on the exit of the corner as well, getting into the concrete. That's not ideal, but still within range. Meanwhile, it looks like Mehmet Karasai has succeeded in getting back past Jeremy Main for third spot. This was a problem for Chris Scheusler. He just caught the curb there at the bus stop and head on into the wall. That is massive. Fortunately, drivers do have a fast repair in this series. No surprise to see that Scheusler is taking that, but it's put him way off the back. And we've already lost Jack Stevenson, it seems, with potentially a similar incident.
Also, Lisa Eskridge had some severe damage and I think is trying to crawl back to pit lane. That was in turn 1 where she unfortunately outbraked herself and slapped it into the tire barrier. As Jeremy Main, now that he's been overtaken, he's got the pole from Karachai, but he's also got Poulos behind him. Let's see what happens down the back stretch if maybe George is interested and trying to make an overtake on this bright yellow number 555. Here, in the meantime, is that replay of Lisa. Oh, wow, that was a huge hit.
That's massive. And that, no doubt, has created critical suspension damage. You noted that she was crawling, and yeah, she is crabbing all the way back to the pits. The right side of that car has been destroyed. Well, keeping our eyes here on Mehmet Karasai as he tries to pull a gap on Jeremy Main and George Poulos, but that's not going to happen down the front stretch. They're just getting a free ride on his coattails in the slipstream as our leaders are still racing very close. Tell you what, with how close Schultz and McDonald are racing, that could potentially give a chance to Karasai to catch back up.
Well, last lap certainly did, because Kevin ran a 47.4, Mehmet 46.7, so 0.7 quicker. I'd say he's got a realistic shot, but I think at the start of that last lap, Kevin was side by side. So we'll see what this lap looks like since they're staying single file.
Yeah, it looks like the race has gotten into its rhythm now here on the 4th lap of this 40-minute race. So not much else the drivers can do through the infield. Got to focus on the exit here onto the oval. Very difficult turn to get right that, and seems like they've all gotten through it without much issue, though Karasai has gotten a huge gap all of a sudden over Main and Poulos, so top 3 as spaced out as you like.
Remember, Mehmet missed his first qualifying lap. I wonder if we didn't really get to see the best out of him, and maybe that first lap would have been the prime time for his tires, because the way he is looking quicker, not only than those in front of him, but those behind, it looks like he's hooked up here.
Yeah, very hooked up indeed, but he's not got any pressure behind. He's not got any slipstream in front. These two, meanwhile, still drafting as much as they would like. Kevin Schultz with a little bit of extra momentum over Casey McDonald, but McDonald will have the inside for turn one. And it's, oh no! Oh, okay. Well, that's going to change things.
Casey McDonald sent spinning off into the runoff of turn one. He doesn't hit anything, but he's going to be massively far behind his rivals by the tune of about 8 seconds now. Kevin could also see a penalty out of that, which would free up Mehmet Karaçay to our lead.
Yeah, certainly could. This is very unfortunate. Looks like Aubrey Aya, okay, I'm not sure we're supposed to be looking at Aya here, but then looks like there's further issues there for the number 64. Yeah, so something happened to him, but regardless, McDonald and Schultz, I think it's just a case of miscommunication. I saw that McDonald was sort of going towards the right. He wanted to try and take a bit more of the racing line into turn one, but Kevin Schultz, trying to dive to the inside, make sure that he didn't run wide, just came into him in the braking zone. And once you get on the anchors in these cars, there's not much you can do to alter your trajectory.
Yeah, that's a good point. And remember what I said about those drop points for Mehmet. He automatically will get 11 points even if he doesn't score, because this round would become his drop week for him. So he essentially, with him only being 9 points behind, would overtake if we see McDonald not score here today, as it looks like Schultz is going to be overtaken, and he's heading into pit lane. That's because he was indeed given a black flag. So Karaçay is now your new leader.
Yeah, race control right on point with assigning penalties very quickly. And the big problem for Schultz here is it's still too early for him to come in for an actual pit stop and actually get his mandatory pit out of the way. He tours through the pits and will re-emerge back onto the racetrack in about 14th place behind Robbie Gerwig. It's a big shame. That's another view of the incident. Very fortunate for Casey McDonald that there's so much space in the runoff area at turn one. He will have a little bit of damage, but he should still be able to continue on.
All right, so Mehmet is now in the catbird seat. He does still have George Poulos behind him, but I'd have to try and do some quick math to figure out where exactly he needs to finish in comparison to McDonald's, who is still going to score points in 6, which looks like about worth 15. The win is worth 25. So, yes, actually, that would mean that Mehmet needs to stay in this first place, and Casey would need to jump up one position to clinch it.
Yeah, remember, McDonald, he needs to finish 5th or better to take the title. And considering the pace that he's got over everyone else right now, I think that's a solid possibility. Michael Courtney is the car that he needs to make his way past.
This is feeling almost reminiscent of Vettel in 2012 here, trying to take the title at Brazil. Has to desperately try and come back from early problems to hope that he can do enough to finish where he needs. Oh, and another coming together. I know it's the last race of the season, but you still got something to lose in the eyes of the stewards, guys.
Yeah, Arthur Schwartz and Rob Gerwig coming together in what almost looked like a synchronized slide off the racetrack. Just a bit of an optimistic move into the horseshoe there for Schwartz, it seems. So, we will see what the stewards think about that. Actually, Robbie Gerwig has been given a black flag for that incident. Yeah, he was the car that jumped into the back of him, I believe.
Yeah, it looks to be the case, and he is already serving that right now. So drivers looking like they're actually putting their kind of hands in the air and admitting fault when they know that they've got to serve that black flag pretty much immediately. No protest, no trying to fight back against the call. But Karachai is exactly where he needs to be. He's leading. He's now starting to drop Poulos a little bit that last time through the infield. So looking a little bit stronger. McDonald's is now 1.1 seconds behind Courtney. He has to pass that number 17 to take this title. If Casey ties with Mehmet, Casey will take the championship on account of having more wins.
Indeed. There's so many championship scenarios to think about here. McDonald, meanwhile, he's catching up to Michael Courtney. Took 0.5 of a second out of him on the previous lap. So McDonald has got his eyes on stalks. He is locked in right now to try and get back up into the minimum place required to take this championship, as Karasai was the fastest car on track that time by. What about McDonald? Nope, he goes faster. McDonald a 46.2. That is some magnificent pace from him there. That's his best lap of the session so far.
Best lap of anybody, I'm pretty certain. Trying to see if Kevin has one quicker. No, Casey McDonald is absolutely flying. The red mist must be down right now. And Michael Courtney, while he is actually closing in on fourth place, he probably should be watching his mirrors because he's probably going to have to play defense soon as we check in on Dave Douglas.
Yep, Douglas, of course, racing hard for the last position in the top 10. Neil Urbesh is ahead of him, but Douglas is looking in his mirrors, I presume, because he's got Kevin Schultz right behind him, who's trying to recover from that penalty. Very close three-car pack here, coming through the Western Horseshoe, and a bit of a compromised exit there for Douglas. He spins.
That's going to hand it over to Schultz easily, who now takes that 11th place. Now he can focus on Neil Urbesh as Douglas waits patiently to try and return to the circuit, and thankfully he finds a nice opening. He actually looks like he didn't lose too much. Yeah, I don't think he lost any positions. He's still P12.
Yeah, indeed. Looks like the gaps further down the field are large enough that you don't actually lose much if you make a mistake. But a little bit of a mistake for Courtney coming out of the bus stop chicane. And this should be a very easy move for Casey McDonald to get back up into fifth. And he is now champion-elect once more.
Probably a nice tip of the hat and a thank you to Michael Courtney from Casey, because it looked like he knew he had that mistake, pulled up to the high side. His fight is not with Casey, most likely. He's not as worried about trying to hold him behind. And once he had that run, he just kind of let him ease through. Now, Rob Gerwing.
That's not turn one.
No, and okay. Oh, well, it was turn one.
Well, the outside of turn one. I mean, I thought I'd see him a little bit closer to the corner itself, but that was a massive overshoot in the braking zone.
Credit to him to see that coming and thankfully keep the car underneath him, just turned it around. Oh, Neil Urbesh just had an off. So now I think that means Kevin is on up to 10th. So he's getting all the easy passes tonight.
He is indeed, and it looks like pretty heavy damage for Urbesh. He's escaped back to the pits. Oh, lordy, yeah. So we thought Lisa Eskridge's crash in turn one was spectacular. Urbesh's crash was even more so.
Oh my goodness, I can only imagine. Oh, do we have a replay of it? Oh, ho, ho.
Yeah.
Turns it up and over, and no wonder he had to tow.
Yeah, that car was completely destroyed. All drivetrain linkages severed. No surprise. So we lose another, and we only have 14 cars left on the lead lap. Robbie Gerwing is still running out there, but Urbesh currently getting those repairs done. Eskridge and Scheusler currently a lap down. Jack Stevenson still out of the race. Karasai, meanwhile, coming under pressure for the lead from George Poulos, who I think is feeling very good about how this race is going.
Indeed, and he's caught back up to him a couple of times. Now, I know we said that the draft is going to be quite powerful here, but I'm impressed with how much he's pulled him back in. It's been quite the back and forth between them. Double checking to see if George has had a victory this season, and no, he has not. In fact, I believe he's only taken, well, he's had 2 second places, so he's come very close a couple times. Let's see if he can finally break that streak.
Yeah, let's see if he can. Doesn't quite nail the exit coming onto the oval as we keep our eye here on Alex Lidback, who's battling hard with Robert Gallais and Edward Trippett for 7th place. Meanwhile, coming out of the oval, this is a very long corner, this. Jepperson versus McDonald for 4th place. And this is just demonstrating, we don't even need to really point it out, McDonald has so much more pace than these guys.
It's really been a fantastic series, 11 for McDonald. He's on 3 wins so far, and he's honestly taken 2 podiums, and the other ones that he's raced so far this season, a pair of 3rd places, and he missed, well, actually, no, he had a 0 score at Zandvoort, so it wasn't that he missed it. That was his only blip on this whole thing, and that is his drop week right now, which is why he lacks those drop points. Now, how aggressive is he going to be on Josh? Because remember, he's in a championship winning position. It's not comfortable right now, so he'd probably like to get by him, but he doesn't need to take huge risks.
Yeah, and I think Jepperson will be aware of that as well. I think with the pace that McDonald has over him, I mean the gap wasn't huge in terms of lap time between them, both running 46.6s on the previous lap. I think McDonald just biding his time and waiting for the best opportunity to just slip by. I get the feeling it's not going to be a particularly hard-fought fight once he gets to it.
Borrow a term from Townsend Bell, looking for high percentage moves, most likely, on trying to make that overtake, such as a run wide out of turn 6 there from Josh. As let's see what Dave Douglas does. Oh, we've seen lots of drivers do that over the years.
Yeah, we have. I mean, you know, it's a hard braking zone for the Le Mans chicane. They're coming into it right now on live pictures. It's a fast entry. You've got to make sure that your car is stable for the direction change, and that just didn't happen for Douglas. Jack Stevenson, meanwhile, he's back out on the circuit with some repairs being done, but it doesn't look like it's quite up to spec for him. A bit of a slow re-entry onto the racetrack, but looks like he was just letting the lapping car by there. So good news if you're following Jack Stevenson, back out on track, but he is 8 laps down, and I don't think he's going to be finishing any better than the rear of the field unless Neil Obesh can get back out on circuit.
There's our leader on the screen. Also, McDonald is now into 4th. Jepperson almost looked like he allowed him through into the Le Mans chicane. I couldn't quite tell if it was just that Casey was that much deeper on the brakes, but it certainly looked like he was kind of breezing by him down into that chicane, which means he is now very firmly and solidly in that championship winning position. 3 more seconds up to Jeremy Main if he wants to continue his streak of when he does finish, he's on the podium.
Indeed. Still a lot to think about, and no drivers have taken their scheduled pit stops yet, aside from Dave Douglas, and even then, that was to get some damage repaired as well. So 13.4 seconds stop for Douglas. He did take his fast repair during that, I believe. That is the benchmark for all of the drivers here. We are now past the halfway point. None of our top group have taken their mandatory pit stop yet. There is enough of a gap between everyone that I don't think we're going to be seeing much change from the likes of Casey McDonald. He might be able to jump Jeremy Main, but I think the best he can hope for is 3rd right now if Karasai and Poulos continue as they are.
Yeah, last lap was pretty close to Jeremy's pace, so I think you're right on this one. This could be more of a fight for the win up at the front as far as where our drama is going to be. George just kind of sitting back there, maybe also thinking long term and trying to save some fuel as he rides the coattails of the number 78 around for another lap to start lap number 13 in this event. Also, I'm kind of intrigued because I was looking at who were our movers in this race so far, Reese. And there's a lot of drivers that are up 2, up 3, but nobody really more than that. Everybody's kind of gained the same amount of positions. It's just a handful of drivers who've lost a bunch.
Yeah, and again, it's mostly -2 and -3 in terms of position for most of the drivers that have lost positions, apart from Kevin Schultz, who is down 9 spots. Remember, he had to take that tour through the pits, penalized for his contact with Casey McDonald. Question is, can Schultz get any further into the top 10 at this point? The championship is effectively over for him at this time, but you never know. A full course yellow might come out at an opportune time. He could catch back up.
Exactly. Or, you know, we could see traffic. We could see a mistake. It ain't over till it's over. He's got to get to that checkered flag to wrap this one up. He came in our points leader, so he was in the best position. Now he's just gone.
Oh, Casey McDonald. Oh, no. He has gone into the wall massively and is suffering technical issues. He's out.
Well, I said it ain't over till it's over. It looks like his connection may have re-solidified because I see him still out on the track, but he blinked a lot, and from what we could see of him, it seemed like the car was spinning wildly. So I am kind of baffled as to what exactly is going on. But suddenly, it's back in the hands of Karachai.
It is. Yeah, I think Karachai, he's practically guaranteed the title at this point if he continues on. McDonald is still stopped, and race control has given a connection warning to him. I'm not sure why that hit happened for him, because if it was connection issues, he would have still been running as he would on the circuit. Could it have been maybe an issue with his computer hardware or something? I'm not too sure. That's a very bizarre incident for Casey McDonald.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking too, that there must have been something going wrong with the machine itself, which can affect the connection sometimes, and that would explain why it was those weird blinking issues that he had just in the middle of it. But the car still sits stationary, and I would guess that eventually the stewards might actually remove him from the track if he stays put. Meanwhile, on screen is still our battle for the lead, actually going by the stationary car and defending to the inside. Mehmet trying to hold off Poulos. I don't know, if I was in the ear of the number 78 right now, I'd tell him, you can let that car by. You just need to finish right now.
Yeah, exactly. Karachai is the best placed of anyone right now. You know, he's comfortably in the top 2. Is this a defense from him as well? No, he's going into the pits, actually. He's taking this opportunity to get his pit stop out of the way in case there is a full course yellow called for the still stricken Casey McDonald.
And Mehmet did make it to the cones at the right speed, so no penalty for that one. It's not only tricky trying to make sure that you don't lose the car coming down into there, but that you don't incur a penalty, which happens frequently, whether it's NASCAR or sports cars at this track. And looks like a bunch of them are in. Jeppesen, I see Courtney has pitted. Trippett is also in, along with Lidback.
Yep, Karachai has completed his pit stop. Meanwhile, he's re-emerging onto the racetrack. I would have expected him to be the first one to come in anyway. He's been the one punching the hole through the air, not getting any slipstream benefit. He would have been burning through more fuel than George Poulos and everyone else behind. So he re-emerges in 4th place still, which is pretty fantastic for Mehmet. You never know, might be able to set some quick times down and extend the gap to Poulos when George eventually pits. Everyone else making their way out at the moment. Aubrey Ayer currently in the lane. Looks like we're seeing pit stops running the gamut anywhere from 12 to 16 seconds.
Yeah, Alex Lidback currently with the quickest one out there. He sits in 7th, but he's 4th out of those who have stopped. Also, it's a bit of a moot point, but Casey McDonald has officially retired from this race now, and he is out. He will not be your champion.
That's drama. Big drama in the final round of Porsche Club America Challenge class. That's got a sting for McDonald. He was leading the championship coming into the final round and was pretty dominant at Mugello. So I definitely send my commiserations to him as Jeremy Main and George Poulos both make their way into the pit lane. Kevin Schultz is also going to come in to serve his proper pit stop. Second time he's visited the pits. He just toured through last time to serve a penalty. Now he can get all of his service done, but I think he's well aware Karasai is just too far ahead.
Looks like possibly Aubrey Iyer may have sped in pit lane because they've got a black flag as we check out Ed Trippett, who currently runs in 6th. Poulos returns. Oh, we might want to go to the leaders because it's going to come close between them. Poulos has jumped Karachai for the lead. Poulos could finally maybe get this win here. He's got to hold on for about 12 minutes. Is down into turn 1. Lidback fighting side by side with Courtney.
Good defense there from Lidback. Courtney couldn't do much to make his way past. In turn 1, Karasai is spun. Oh my God. You want close? Goodness me. Karasai was this close to wiping out George Poulos in the Western Horseshoe.
I wonder if we can get an onboard from George, because that was mere inches apart between them, maybe even less than that. Let's see here. We've got the replay up. This will show you what it is from outside. Now watch him lose the car, and you're right. This is just right there.
Oh my, oh lordy.
I mean, couldn't have done it if you tried.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. That's ridiculous. So close to disaster for our top 2. Well, that does mean that George Poulos is now comfortably in the lead from Mehmet Karasai, and not much Mehmet can do from here. There's only 10 minutes left in the race, and the gap is out at 4.7 seconds. Karachai will have to be running something approaching 2 seconds a lap faster in order to take the lead back.
Exactly. So he's going to need quite a bit of pace here, and it's looking less and less likely. That battle we were following before, Lidback versus Courtney, not going away. This is for 7th out on the track. Looks like Alex is going to defend down to the inside. Courtney looking for the long way around. Is possible, but difficult at turn 1. You got to be aggressive on the brakes, and he's not. He's going to give it up.
So Lidback continues running the title line into turn 1 there. Nice and straight on the brakes, and you see how much the gap balloons on the exit of the corner. I think Courtney has to work on getting on the throttle a bit earlier to maintain that gap. All of that being said, it seems like Edward Trippett might be in a bit of trouble here if Lidback's pace is continuing. Seems like the first couple of laps out of the pits, obviously, tires getting back up to temperature, etc. Now he's truly on the pace is Alex Lidback. This is a problem for Rob Gerwing, and that's exactly the same thing that happened to Mehmet Karachai, but this time Gerwing decides to cut the corner entirely.
All right, so drivers having difficulty here at the very end. It is almost 1 in the morning virtual standard time, so maybe it's getting a little bit late for these night owls, unfortunately. And we're seeing a few of them getting sleepy as we've only got 12 cars left on the lead lap. So it's certainly been an exciting final part of this race, that is no doubt. Poulos sitting well with all of, it looks like maybe 5 laps to go in a 4-second lead.
Yeah, Poulos is looking very comfortable right now. Karachai is taking time out of him, but I don't think it's going to be enough. Might be able to draw alongside as Courtney has drawn alongside Lidback. Maybe a poor exit from the bus stop, and he's ahead coming into the first turn, covers it on the inside. That's how you get the move done into turn one. Beautiful stuff from Michael Courtney.
All right, so I've been talking to some of the league organizers about the rules on this one, and McDonald is scored at 16th. Now, Jack Stevenson could still overtake him, so if he's 17th, that would mean 4 points instead of 5 points where he has now. As it sits currently in that 16th position, Mehmet has to finish 7th or better to take the title.
Righto, and I don't think there's any danger of Mehmet losing that unless there is a massive crash for him. Yeah. I know. We've already seen potential for that.
Commentator's curse has already struck us with poor Casey, who thought he had this thing wrapped up himself. And now he's probably also kind of hoping that some sort of craziness befalls Karachai on top of things as we check out the fight for the 11th spot between Schwartz and Iyer Aubrey. Just going to try and see if he can ride in the tire tracks of that number 82. Kind of weaving back and forth, though, along the straightaway towards the tri-oval. Going to swing wide to the outside for Art to open up the entry, and they almost make contact on the way in as we check out Trippett in the meantime.
Yeah, Ed Trippett holding on to 6th spot right now, but Michael Courtney, after making his way past Alex Lidback in turn one, it seems that the number 17 is switched on. This is fantastic stuff from Courtney. He probably needed a couple of laps to get back into rhythm. Okay, don't lose the rear coming into turn one. It's a very easy thing to do. Trippett manages to put the power down nicely. So Courtney's going to have to wait a little longer to get the move done. This has been a great run from Michael Courtney so far.
Even better for Trippett, up 4 spots from where he began. Poulos has tied that up in the lead currently. But the 444, who we saw have a pretty good qualifying there towards the end of that session, has managed to climb upwards. This is George still looking for that elusive first win here in Series 11. Like I said, 2 second places. Was riding in second place for some time behind the 78. Was probably thinking, oh no, not again. And maybe that's why we've seen him be so aggressive looking for the victory.
Indeed, Poulos has certainly been driving hard, but Karachai is catching him up. The gap's down to about 4 seconds again. It actually looks like, I thought for a moment, did Karachai run deep in the bus stop, but it was actually Aubrey Iyer who is now a lap down on our leaders. Art Schwartz, meanwhile, is making way for Mehmet Karachai and taps the wall coming out of NASCAR Turn 4. So let's see if Karachai can make up any more time here with only 5 minutes remaining on the clock.
Does he need to push that hard as well? He doesn't need this win from George, especially now. I can report that Jack Stevenson is now only 1 lap behind Casey McDonald. So Casey going to be bumped to 17th since there is enough time, as long as Jack also doesn't wreck. If that's the case, it'll become 8th or better from Mehmet to try and take the championship. He still remains in second place, so he is well above the cut line.
Yeah, and I think after his wobble coming out of the pits and the big scare that resulted from that, he'll want to dial it back a little and just try and consolidate this second position. Of course, you know, there's a level of comfort that you can attain when sim racing where you are running at your best, but you're not pushing too hard. And I think Karachai is going to try and strike that balance. Sometimes when you get into that racer's mood and you think, okay, time to back off, I can relax a little, that's when you make your mistakes.
He's going to put a lap on Aubrey, who pulls off to the side. Nice switch around between them. And Mehmet can now focus forward once again to try and catch George. Last lap for Poulos, 47.5. Mehmet, a 47 flat. Might be too little too late, though.
Yeah, I think so. Less than 4 minutes remaining on the clock. The gap's still running about 3.5 seconds. There's not much chance of Karasai making up this time. There's no one else to slipstream off. So, advantage George Poulos for the time being.
Here's what's interesting, though. They're doing, like, 2 laps is about 3 minutes 30, and they just crossed with about 3 minutes 30 at the line. So it's going to be extremely tight on how many laps we have left, and drivers have got to hope they put enough fuel in.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's something that we didn't consider initially, because, you know, whether or not the race runs an extra lap, everyone's already taken their pit stop at this point, so they are locked in. We might be seeing a couple of drivers pull in panic into the pits for a bit of splash and dash just to make sure they make it around that extra lap. Alternatively, Poulos could be aware of it and just back off a little bit coming into the final lap, just to make sure that the race runs to that one less lap. But with Mehmet Karasai making up the time that he is, I don't think that's going to be the case. The gap's now down to 2.6.
Yeah, I don't think the 192 can lift at this point. He's got to go, because whether or not he has the fuel, I mean, he's made his bed. He's now going to lie in it, and he's going to come around to decide whether or not we get the white flag or if we get the 2-to-go signal.
So 2 minutes on the clock starts now, and it takes about 1 minute and 47 seconds in these conditions to complete a lap around Daytona, and I think that's easily in the margin. 2 to go. Yep.
Ooh, interesting. Who did the math right on this one then? Mehmet now down to 2 seconds. Last lap, a 46.1. Poulos with a 47.2, 1.1 seconds faster.
That's some ridiculous pace from Mehmet Karasai. He is desperate here to try and make up this gap. Imagine yourself in his position. You know, you've been running at the top of the field all race long. You've been practically gifted the lead after your title rivals came together, and then out of the pits, you have a wobble, you have a spin, and you have to try and make up that gap. You could cap off your title win with a race win in the final round, but you see the gap coming down. How hard do you push?
And for Mehmet, you know, we always say that it's consistency that wins titles. That 11-point drop, that was a 10th place finish. So his worst was a top 10 still here. And he's only won a single race compared to the 3 that McDonald has racked up. So I'm with you. I think he wants to take this win to wrap it up. But he has to ask himself, is it worth that, considering if he wrecks out, he could still lose the championship?
That is the question. Let's see how close the gap is coming into the final lap. It is down to 2 seconds. We'll keep an eye out for lap times here, as the white flag should be coming out now. 10 seconds left on the clock, and George Poulos will come to the line. He's weaving a little bit.
Is it showing the checkers?
It's showing the checkered.
I'm going to double check that to make sure and see if that's the case.
Huh.
Because
yeah, I mean, 10 seconds left on the clock. Should that should have been the white flag, but maybe it just wasn't scored that way. Maybe iRacing's predictions decided to make this the final lap. They're not backing off. Maybe it's just our live timing.
I can confirm I went and checked, and the checkered flag was held aloft for George Poulos. So that confirms it. George Poulos is your winner for the final race in the challenge class, finally in Series 11, as Mehmet Karasai is your champion unofficially in the number 78 car with a single win in Series 11.
Fantastic job from Mehmet Karasai. He was consistent. He kept himself in the fight in the final round. And I think congratulations truly in order for him and for George Poulos as well, who drove a fantastic race from 5th to 1st. Yeah, the fireworks are going off around the circuit, so it looks like we do have a finish on our hands, though they are touring around this final lap at quite some speed. I mean, there is precedent in the real world for the checkered flag being flown early at Daytona. I suppose the sim world is reflecting that.
I was honestly just thinking that I guess they sent that flagman over to replace Barney this time around. So Karachai going to wind up 2 seconds shy of getting another win. As Jeremy Main, also, we need to give credit for him. An excellent podium. Had an aggressive start to this race. There's your results. And George Poulos finally winning there up from the New York region. Mehmet taking unofficially the championship, another podium and a P2 as Jeremy Main rounds out those top three. A bit of a distance behind, though, from them. Then you go down to 4th as Josh Jeppesen claimed that spot. Kevin Schultz was P5, our pole sitter. Unfortunately, a penalty scuppering his hopes of trying to take the title today. Edward Trippett was 6th, and Michael Courtney was 7th. Then it was Alex Lidback, P8, Robert Gallais 9th, and Dave Douglas was the last one on the lead lap, Reese.
Indeed. Aubrey Ayer finishing 11th place, a lap down ahead of Art Schwartz, Robbie Gerwing, Lisa Eskridge, and Chris Scheusler. Jack Stevenson managed to make it back out onto the track after his heavy crash early on, finishes 8 laps down, and then you get to Payne. Casey McDonald, 17th after, unfortunately, having to retire due to technical issues and a massive crash. He was the championship leader coming into this round, and I do send my condolences out to Casey McDonald for that. Very unfortunate. Neil Urbesh, our other retirement from the race.
Certainly a lot of issues out there that caused more attrition than I anticipated, but that will wrap up our challenge class for Series 11. It was a roller coaster ride all series long, but I have to say it was never short of entertainment. That is for sure. I think that actually will wrap up the broadcast as well, it looks like, as make sure and join us tomorrow, because April 4th, it'll be the sport class finale here at Daytona. A big thank you goes out to the steering committee at PCA Sim Racing, as well as our team tonight, Reese and Ramir, as well as Cameron on social media behind the scenes. Thank you so much for watching tonight's broadcast of PCA Sim Racing. I'm Joe Peak. Race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.